Don in London, hello. September the 6th, my video's all about recovery, as is this one, from addiction to substance and behaviour, both in my case. Addictive substance, alcohol. So alcoholic in recovery for some years, but only doing it one day at a time. And similarly, behaviour around people, places and things. Trying to be with the right people, in the right place, doing the right things with the right things. With the right girl, in the right place, but wrong bloke, back then in the day of drinking, because I really didn't know who I was. I was so desperate that you would include me in your life, in some shape or form, hopefully as a lover if it was a girl. Oh dear, back then, insecure, full of fear, putting on a brave face, and not quite sure of what to do to be accepted as acceptable to you, and acceptable to me too. So a long journey from childhood into adulthood, and still not knowing where I was going. So these days I have a bit of a clue, if you like, what is good for me and what is less good for me, what I can do and what I can't do on a daily basis. I can change my attitudes and behaviour and direction. I can't change your attitudes and behaviour and your direction, because you have equal freedom of choice, hopefully. But alcohol did rob me of an understanding of who I was and how to form an identity of which was acceptable to me. I didn't even have a clue that these things were going on under the surface or on top of the surface. I didn't quite know how I fitted in the world. So generally quite fearful, putting on a brave face and making out that life was okay. And part of that was to be successful. And in many instances I was successful, but I still didn't feel right about me, and something was missing. The answer was some sort of serenity, I suppose, some acceptance of me being who I am, and it's okay to be me, and it's okay to be a learner every single day. So these days it's okay to make mistakes, it is okay to change my attitude, it is okay to change my behaviour and direction, if life requires it. So living life on life's terms with what I have. And I have a great deal less in many respects than before. I have less time on the planet, I have less diverse opportunities because of my age. But one thing makes everything possible, and that's being sober. And I know I can meet my needs just about and stop wanting things which are beyond me, or wanting the answer before I've even got on the highway of life again. So rather than look for the answer and the ultimate solution to life, life is progress and never perfect. I don't know where it's going to end up and how it's going to be. But never say never to anything in recovery, because you just don't know what's around the corner. But if I try and make life a particular way, I always narrow down my options and can lead myself into expectations which are not at all possible. So expectations can be for me resentments under construction. But if I just say never to anything, but work it out in the moment as I'm going along, and consult and be inclusive rather than no consultation, exclusive, and it's my way or the highway, I will result back to where I was before, full of fear of not being good enough, fear of being found out, fear of not being the person you want me to be. I can only be me in the end. And this is what sobriety has given me. Inclusion with the right people, right places, right things, needs met, wants forgotten, inclusion in my own life, inclusion in learning who I might become by the end of today, including people in my life, loving people, loving their behaviour, loving people, sometimes hating their behaviour, or just simply not liking it, and making decisions about what I can and cannot do as I go along. So I'm not predetermined anymore, or trying to be at a certain point in my life looking like this or that. I just let life happen, or rather live life given what life can be today. Live life with what life can be today. So, not impossible expectations. I'm not going to win the lottery. Well, that's because I haven't done it yet. It's Tuesday. There's a big payout somewhere in the world, probably. So I may invest a couple of quid. And it's to a good cause as well, because if it's not going in prize money, it's probably going to a good cause, hopefully, somewhere, somehow, and not just in profit into somebody else's pocket. Who knows? That's not my issue. So why am I in recovery? From being an addict to alcoholic. I don't differentiate between substances. They're equally obnoxious if they've got you in the grip of addiction. So some people say heroin is worse, nicotine is worse, caffeine is worse, chocolate is worse, alcohol is worse. I don't know that they are better or worse. If we are an addict to something and we are under its control, that's bad enough. So how to get out of it and get back to a sort of sober pace of life? Let go that which we are addicted to. Substances and behaviour, people, places and things. Let go that which is not good for us. It takes a bit of doing, and I couldn't do it on my own. So for years I battled with drink. It was my best friend, and then it became my worst enemy, because it was killing me. And it never allowed me to develop my true understanding of what my feelings were and how life can be in the moment of now. So, yes, what helped me? Well, simply a fellowship. But on the way, family, friends, community, professionals all helped me to be alive long enough to realise in a moment of clarity, not necessarily sober at the time, that I could not do it on my own and I needed help. And as if by some intervention beyond my reckoning, along came the suggestion that Alcoholics Anonymous may have the answer to my need to be sober. And it did, because it was a fellowship full of people living sober, either one day sober or many years sober, but with news about how to be sober and what it's like not to be. And of course, as a newcomer, I was one of the one-day people who came in, had a look and ran away, and then had to go back again and again to find out more about what it was to be sober, to stop thinking I could fix myself with something. So fellowship is not about fixing, it's about living a life sober, one day at a time, and then they all join up into days, weeks, months and years. And we go along as we may, always knowing we could slip back quite easily and get caught out again. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to me, but I'm also aware that it does happen to people. Even people who've been sober for decades can suddenly find themselves back drinking and wonder how that happened. Normally it's because we stopped doing basic maintenance, simple maintenance, and following a pattern of life principles called the 12 steps. Anyway, a bit more about that in a moment. I'm going to share the AA preamble, some of the readings from the fellowship, and some of my thoughts along the way in recovery. So starting with the preamble, this is how AA works for anyone. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So a desire to stop drinking, no rules, laws or regulations to follow, simply a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. So if you haven't got any money, it's free. If you have got a little bit of money, you need to pay the rent, tea, and pay for the tea, biscuits and coffee, and maybe a bit of literature as well. But we don't have vast resources. We're a very day-to-day organisation when it comes to finance, because we don't want finance to become an issue, other than we've got enough to pay the rent, really. So if you haven't got the money, you don't pay. If you've got a little bit of money, we help each other along. Yes, there are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So the fellowship is just about sobriety, but everybody who goes to fellowship is full of opinions, belongs to something, and has ideas about what life should be or can be. So we all have opinions and beliefs around living, and we look out for the similarities when we share experience, strength and hope, so that we may find a path for ourselves. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So the fellowship is about unity, service and recovery. We're all trusted servants and there are no leaders. So nobody's in there telling you what to do. We have to work out which direction we want to go in for ourselves, and how to do it in a sober way. And that's where the 12 steps of AA, life principles, work, if we work at them on a daily basis, and each one has some sort of impact at some point in the day, probably. But it's like learning a new way of living and behaving. It becomes second nature after a while to give us back our freedom of choice today, freedom of choice in the moment of now. So it's not about us becoming dogmatic about life, it's about being freed up from dogma, the old life or the old hates, the old retaliations. Why is life giving me such a hard time? And it's about being more realistic. So it's not about getting your own way, it's about what way will work today. So meeting life on life terms is quite painful, because often we don't get our own way, but we find the freedom of choice within what is possible and what is not possible. And September, in the Daily Reflections book, which I mention every day, I've actually found it under a pile of paperwork which I generated about wisdom from other people. Daily Reflections, this one, very handy, 1 page a day meditation, all about the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And if you wonder what they look like, they're on this handy little card, available from any good meeting who has enough money to buy them. Sometimes we only have enough money to pay the rent, so there's no tea, coffee or biscuits, which is a bit of a tragedy if you're hungry, like I used to be, hungry, angry, lonely, tired all the time, and desperate for sustenance because I had no money. So AA fed me biscuits in the end for a while. I don't know if that was helpful or unhelpful, but it stopped me from starving when I wouldn't even admit to other people I hadn't got the money for food. Yeah, pride again, ego again, and fear of being not good enough even to be in AA. So step 9, September, 12 steps, 12 months, 12 traditions, 12 months. So 1 step and tradition per month. Step 9 reads exactly as: made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And step 9, making direct amends, comes after we stopped doing the self-harm on a daily basis with whatever it was that we were addicted to. You know, self-harm, we have to stop it, because if we're still harming ourselves, we're probably harming other people who are desperate, loved ones maybe, or family maybe, or friends, or people we may have come to love and be a part of their lives. Self-harm has to stop in order to stop harming them, because they can't help us when we're in the full throw of addiction. We can't help ourselves. If we can't stop it, how can they? And sometimes we imbue them, or maybe feel they have a way to fix us. And the simple way to fix us is to let us keep on doing what is harmful to us. It's not, it just causes more harm. Anyway, daily reflections for today, all about amends. Removing threats to sobriety, except when to do so would injure them or others. And that comes from the big book, the big blue book of AA, on the shelf behind me, and often taken off the shelf and read again. Because I actually read it, you know, in the early days I couldn't read the big book of AA because my brain wouldn't work. All I could do was sit in meetings and listen to people and then complain about how bad my life was. and make up stories to embellish the good parts and embellish the tragedies as well, I suspect. So these days I just try and tell the truth as it is. So step 9 restores in me a feeling of belonging, not only to the human race but also to the everyday world. First, the step makes me leave the safety of AA, so that I can deal or may deal with non-AA people out there on their terms. It is a frightening but necessary action if I am to get back into life, and after all the 12 steps of AA are all about living life as it is, life on life's terms with freedom. Second, step 9 allows me to remove threats to my sobriety by healing past relationships. Step 9 points the way to a more serene sobriety by letting me clear away past wreckage, lest it bring me down. So step 9 is clearing the decks and the wreckage of the past. But to do that means we have to get to a place of truth, open, honest and willingness to keep on being the person we can be, rather than the person who became tormented and misshapen by addiction. So it's not easy to get there. So all these steps are about helping us find out how to find truth today. It's not my opinion or belief which counts, it's the truth of what is going on. How to love people and be loved back, and wisdom, which often comes from other people. Wisdom and putting it into practice in my life, the wisdom of life, and then learning more about life and sharing that. So it's about inclusion and openness and affection for ourselves and other people, loving ourselves enough to love other people and find out what love is, because some of us weren't very good at learning it. It was always in us, but we didn't really understand it. Otherwise, why would we have feared life? So today I was thinking risk. Always life is risk. What if I was to tell you the truth and you don't like it? Am I in possession of the truth, or just my opinion and belief? I can misjudge, misinform, make mistakes and not progress when I exclude you from my understandings. Truth is revealed when we speak up today. So I don't know what the truth is sometimes, or I only have an opinion and a belief about what it might be. And if I try and push ahead without asking you what you think, I can find myself in a sort of excluded, isolated place, my own archipelago, where there's only me there, on my little island. And as John Donne said in that famous poem, is it an eponymous? No, it's not. It's just a poem. No man is an island, or no woman is an island. Although sometimes we seem to be on different planets. I don't actually believe that. I think we're on the same planet, we just haven't talked to each other. Yes. Value diversity and difference. But also look to the similarities of what's going to make life work today. So it's not my opinion better than your opinion, it's what is the opinion that we come to together. Some of the previous years, between 2005 and 2010, breaking habits of a lifetime. Now a lifetime is one day long. Another day above ground is a miracle, said the man in the street walking his dog. I saw my neighbour yesterday on my way out to the market. I had not seen him for months, as I had been away from regular meetings with injuries this year. And that's when I broke my foot and I couldn't go anywhere for about 6 months. He is in the fellowship, as are hundreds of people in my neighbourhood, where the richest people in the world live, and also the poorest people, from any background, colour and creed. So many in fellowships in my neighbourhood keep sober and live happy lives, whatever our circumstances. Fellowships are always free. Addiction has no boundaries and affects anyone who is susceptible. Alcohol, drugs, substances and behaviour. In fellowship with one purpose, prejudice and background is put aside, hopefully by most anyway. Often lost and forgotten as we learn to love, be loved and useful again. We become human as we become sober and learn to value all life if we are so inclined. Indeed, the only prejudice we have becomes addiction itself, that we don't want to be addicted anymore because it takes away our freedom. But also I suppose freedom could be an addiction in a way, because it's elusive, and the freedom of choice is based on life as it is. It's freedom of choice can be withdrawn or taken away from us by rules, regulations and laws imposed by society. So we can't just go out there and do exactly what we want to do. Well, what sort of chaos would there be? So the man and his dog, no one else in the street knows of the years in sobriety, and need never know, as fellowship provides anonymity. But hundreds know all the same. Anonymity is the sanctuary to find truth, love and wisdom from others and ourselves, one day at a time. So anonymity really does have a place. I mean, my anonymity never seemed to be an issue because there wasn't any. But there were things I shared with counsellors which I was ashamed of and didn't know how to deal with. It was my inadequacy as a human being which was the issue, which caused all the other stuff to happen. Some suggest God is truth, love and wisdom we learn from others. I am happy with this starting point, and truth, love and wisdom is my higher power, not my opinion and belief. I often find I need truth, love and wisdom to keep sober, a very cool outlook for me today. And the only way I find out the truth is to ask them questions. What do you think about this? Is this true? And then we get into opinion and belief, but eventually we get to a better understanding of what the truth might be today. And good conscience prevails as we become sober if we are inclined. Self-harm and harming others pulls us down as surely as any addiction. And we do get addicted to self-harm, and harming others pulls us down, because if we're harming ourselves, we're probably harming other people who love us and feel hurt by what we're doing to ourselves. Open, honest and willing, sober offers hardship, joy and sadness, as life is, and not some fantasy we may have lived in the past. And fantasy can be expectations of greater things, and expectations are often resentments under construction, as one young lady told me. Sober for today means I give life my best shot. No promises, simply reality on life terms today. And other years, AA steps and philosophy, freedom to make good choices, letting go old ways and outlooks, and giving up our secrecy about our drinking. We learn in fellowship we need never pick up a drink again, as long as we contingent on our spiritual condition, and spiritual condition is living reality. Reality is the ultimate spiritual experience because it's right now. That was my belief and opinion, actually. Other people have different definitions of spirituality and religion, and long may it work for them. But spiritual living for me is the ability to cope with now. And that was not me working that one out. It came from a very good source. Learning news and outlooks. We stop self-harm and stop harm done. We make amends as we can, and by how we live life today. So part of the amends is how we live today: truth, love and wisdom, open, honest and willing, in unity, service and recovery. So it's not about losing sight of who we are, it's actually gaining insight as to who we are. And finally, AA, life a day at a time. Out of the problem into the solution. We start with 90 meetings in 90 days, a commitment to new living and sober. And it was suggested 90 meetings in 90 days, and it doesn't come from any particular source or no authority within AA, because there is no authority in AA. I just need to remind myself. The fellowship does not have rules, regulations or laws. There are a lot of people who come up with good suggestions, and one of them for me was 90 meetings in 90 days. Well, I often went to meetings all day long because it kept me out of the pub, the bar, the restaurant, the wine and spirits aisle in the supermarket. Notwithstanding that, I didn't have any money for those things. But pure addiction will take us anywhere and make us do anything to keep on being in the addiction. so I don't know that having no money would have stopped me in the end. Sometimes quickly we feel we are on the right path, sometimes slowly, and sometimes we stumble, and we keep coming back as sober sticks, and life improves, just for today. So that's me. I've actually done the step 9 reading as well today, so a bit of a, well, quite a lot today for me. All this is about being sober one day at a time, making the best of what is, and not undermining the worst of what has happened, or undermining ourselves for other people by blame gets people nowhere. You may find the root cause of something, or think you have, but it often involves more than one person, place or thing. I suppose the most important thing is to live life as best we can, open, honest and willing, finding the truth as we go along, and see what turns up and turns out, and how we get to be loved, loved back, and useful. So whatever our career is, be it big or small, it's what we've got. We need to cherish it as much as we cherish people. The Serenity Prayer, my can do, can't do and wisdom to know the difference, or our can do, can't do and wisdom to know the difference, is the universal tool in the moment of now. I know I can be a bit of a tool in the moment of now. So this universal tool, the Serenity Prayer, or exhortation or meditation to God or good conscience, helps me be less of a tool just for today, utilising the Serenity Prayer. So to God or in good conscience, as you come to understand for yourself, God or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference in the moment and just for today.